Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to have you join us for the Land Services SA webinar on LF documents. This is a pre-recorded session with a live Q&A session at the end of this presentation. We ask you to kindly hold all your questions until the allocated time, where one of our subject matter experts will be able to assist. Land Services SA is committed to providing an excellent customer experience. One way we continue to deliver value to the industry is through our industry education program, where we produce a range of helpful educational materials, hold regular webinars, and host industry events. Our industry education program addresses key topics or frequently asked questions to ensure you remain up to date with contemporary practices. We want to help set you up for success and believe helping with industry education will help reduce the volume of requisitions, meaning a quicker and more seamless experience for your clients. Land Services SA's subject matter experts assist in delivering our industry education program, utilising their years of experience and respected place in the industry. This webinar was prepared by Sandy Beaglehole. Sandy is one of our property examiners. She has over 40 years of knowledge and experience in land services and has worked in numerous positions, including 10 years as a property examiner. In this session, we will be covering the different types of LF documents. We will also be going through what they are used for and when to use them. We have included some key points at the end of the presentation to help reduce requisitions. This is a short summary to describe the three different types of LF documents that can be lodged. Firstly, we have the bylaws. These are the rules for that particular scheme to ensure that the scheme works smoothly and without any disputes. Secondly, we have the scheme description. These documents are required to be lodged only in certain circumstances. For example, when more than 6 lots are being created, or the scheme is mainly for commercial purposes, or if there is further development to be undertaken. This is so a prospective purchaser can see what is planned for the scheme that they are going to be buying into. Thirdly, the development contract is to bind the developer's obligations to ensure that they complete what they propose to do. As regards the preparation of the three different documents, they firstly all need to be certified in accordance with Form 10, as shown in green. The certification would normally be signed by the conveyancer or solicitor, being the person who prepared the document. Secondly, all LF documents should be printed double-sided. Thirdly, at the top of each page should be these two boxes. As you can see, the box on the left states Terms of Instrument not checked by Land Services SA, but we do have a cursory glance over the document to ensure that the mandatory matters pursuant to the Community Titles Act have been included. If they have not, then we would requisition the document, and if we did notice something else that we may consider an issue, then we would suggest that that be changed also. And finally, there should be an index included, and all the pages are to be numbered. Section 34 of the Community Titles Act states that certain points need to be shown in the bylaws. So we will now go into a bit more depth as to what we would normally see in the bylaws to help with the smooth running of the scheme. Firstly, the use of the common property needs to be defined. For example, what is it used for? Is it a driveway for access, or is it a small portion of land that is only used for service infrastructure? Secondly, the use of the lots needs to be stated in the bylaws. For example, the lot owners can only use the community lots for residential purposes, or they may only be commercial, where the community lots are shops or businesses. Thirdly, the bylaws need to cover the community corporation's responsibility for managing and looking after the common property. Fourthly, if you are creating a 2 or 3 lot scheme, consider whether or not to include the bylaw exemptions in the bylaws as shown in Section 35 of the Community Titles Act. They must be listed in the bylaws to be exempt from these requirements. A 3 lot scheme can only be exempt from one of the requirements. I will go into further detail about the bylaw exemptions in a later slide. Fifthly, as regards pets, it is best to be clear whether pets are allowed or not, because if there is no mention in the bylaws, then this may cause some confusion between the lot owners. So if the bylaws are silent, then does it mean they can or cannot have pets? And of course you cannot discriminate against a person with a disability. Therefore, if you are saying no cats or dogs, or only when you get the corporation's approval, then this is not quite correct. A person with a disability does not need permission from the community corporation to keep an assistance animal. All they need to do is inform the corporation that they have one. Sixthly, the bylaws should be specific as to who is doing the building insurance. The difference being that if it is a primary plan, then the lot owners are responsible for their own insurance. Whereas if it is a community strata, then the corporation is responsible. With a community strata plan, the buildings form part of the common property, and this is why the corporation is responsible for the building insurance. And lastly, the bylaws may regulate the appearance of the buildings on the lots. One of the mandatory matters is regulating the use of the common property. So in this example, we have 2 different plans showing different types of areas that are depicted as common property and have been outlined in red. The area in the blue plan is only a small portion of land, and the use of the common property would normally be for service infrastructure, or it could just be letterboxes. The green plan shows a larger area. This common property would comprise of a driveway for access, and there could also be service infrastructure in the driveway. So it is beneficial to work out what the common property is and make sure that your bylaws are making reference to the correct use of that area. In this example, I will show you the actual bylaw exemptions that small community schemes can be exempt from. In the blue plan, there is a 2 lot community plan. Therefore, you can include the bylaw exemptions shown in blue, numbered 1 to 5, in your LF document. Whereas the green plan is showing 3 lots, and therefore they can only include one of the bylaw exemptions, which is the requirement to maintain a register of the names of the owners. You cannot just refer to Section 35(1) or 2 of the Community Titles Act. You actually need to list the exemption clauses in your bylaws for the lot owners to be exempt from these provisions. When preparing the bylaws, remember not to use the same document for each scheme. What we find is that a conveyancer will have a template of bylaws for a high-rise apartment building, which would be a community strata plan, and then use the same one for a 2 lot primary community scheme. Different parties will be organising the building insurance. It could be the community corporation or the lot owners. Also, the bylaw exemptions may be applicable to one scheme, but not the next. Therefore, if you have a 4 lot scheme, and in your bylaws you have stated they are exempt from the 5 statements, then the document will be referred out for correction, as this is incorrect. Also check what the common property is, as this is another common mistake that we see when a generic bylaw document is used. So you need to make sure it relates to the area that is depicted as common property on the plan. Another problem we find when the same bylaws are used is that the plan number on the LF document refers to a different community plan. Lastly, any rules that a corporation makes can only be enforceable if they are shown in the bylaws. See Notice to Lodging Parties number 176. Section 30 of the Community Titles Act states that certain points need to be shown in the scheme description. Firstly, you will need to identify the land and explain what is happening. For example, the development of the common property, or if there is a development lot on the plan. And you will then also need to describe what is happening with the development lot. Secondly, describe the purpose that the lots and common property are being used for, being residential or commercial. Thirdly, describe the standards of the development that is to take place, for example, built in accordance with the building code. Fourthly, if there will be different stages, then you will need to describe what is happening in the stages and when they propose that the stages will be completed by. Fifthly, if the developer is going to develop the lot, explain what they are doing. For example, they will be building 8 two-story buildings, and if they are going to construct the common property, what are they doing? Are they putting in a driveway and installing infrastructure? And how long do they propose that it will take? The sixth point is about the development being subject to certain conditions. These conditions are set out in the decision notification form, so you will need to attach a copy of this to your LF document. And the last point is about ensuring that the Council have endorsed the document. When preparing the scheme description, check the plan to see how many lots are being created, and confirm the use of the lots to see whether a scheme description is needed. Before lodging your scheme description, check to see if the development has all been completed. If so, then the document may need to be reworded to show past tense. For example, the developer has developed all of the common property. It must be very clear whether any further development is required or whether the development is now complete, as this will determine whether a development contract is required. If you do change the scheme description and the Council has already endorsed the prior version, then the Council will need to confirm that they are happy with the changes. They should re-endorse the scheme description, but to save time we may accept a letter or a copy of an email to confirm they are happy with the changes. Also, if you attach a plan to show the future proposed division or the current plan and something changes down the track, then be aware that to amend the scheme description after it has been filed, all of the registered mortgagees need to consent. And when you have a 50-lot scheme, this will become quite time-consuming. As regards a development contract, there is quite a few points that must be included. Some of these points you will find are similar to what you also include in your scheme description. Firstly, you will need to identify the land and explain what is happening. Secondly, a statement is required stating whether development approval is needed before the development goes ahead. The third and fourth points are about the developer trying not to interrupt the other lot owners and repairing or paying for any costs or repairs related to any damage that they cause during the construction of the development. Fifthly, attach a plan of the proposed development of any development lot or community lot where possible. Sixthly, the developer needs to state how they are going to access the areas that need developing. Seventhly, set out any obligations of the other parties of the community parcel. The 8th and 9th points are about setting out the days and times when they will be doing the development work and when is the proposed completion time of all the work. The last few points are as regards attaching plans to show the positions and designs of the buildings if the developer is doing the construction of the buildings. If he is not, then you don't need to attach them. If the developer is under an obligation to do the landscaping, then a plan depicting what it is going to look like is to be attached. Also, the standard of work and the materials used may also be specified in the development contract. We have attached an example of a plan on the left that shows a development lot, which is highlighted in pink. As there is a development lot depicted on the plan, you will then need to prepare a scheme description and development contract. In these LF documents, you will need to explain what is being proposed for the future and attach a copy of the proposed division of the development lot. The plan on the right shows the proposed future development, so a copy of this plan is to be attached to the document. This is so that all new buyers are aware of what is happening in the community scheme. In regards to this example, when it is time for the development lot to be divided and the 4 new lots to be created, an AP4 document, an amended community plan, will need to be lodged for this to occur. A development contract is to be prepared when the development has not been completed. However, if the development is completed after preparation of the documents, but prior to lodgement, then you won't need to lodge the development contract. But ensure the scheme description is updated to make it clear that the development is now complete. If the scheme description shows the wording, the developer is likely to construct the buildings, then we will require a development contract. If you see there is a development lot on your plan, then all 3 LF documents will need to be lodged. A reminder that if you are lodging a development contract, then you will need to have a scheme description lodged, as well as the usual bylaws. You cannot lodge a development contract without a scheme description. When you have attached a copy of the plan, ensure that it is a copy of the current approved plan, as the plan that you may have received from the surveyor could have changed. Finally, the development contract is the only LF document that needs to be executed. I hope this webinar has provided some assistance when preparing the LF forms for a new community scheme. For future reference, here is a summary of some of the key points to remember. Number 1. Generic templates should not be used as each scheme is different and the LF documents must relate to the new scheme. Ensure the forms are correct in accordance with the Registrar General's requirements, including the current version of the headers, the correct plan number and development number, and correctly completed certifications. Check if a scheme description is required. Check if a development contract is required. Ensure the timeframes for completion of the development are included in the scheme description and development contract, that they are consistent and that they are clear. And finally, all LF documents need to be consistent with each other. Check the wording in the scheme description and development contract to make sure they agree. In particular, ensure the obligations of the developer are consistent between the scheme description and the development contract. To avoid these types of requisitions, read all of the LF documents prior to lodgement and make sure they are all consistent. Land Services SA's website has a range of educational and support materials to assist you in your day-to-day work. Our Industry Education Hub is a good place to start. This can be found by clicking Industry Education Hub on the homepage of LSSA's website. A copy of today's webinar will be published on the Industry Education Hub, together with recordings of previously held webinars. That concludes the recorded webinar section. Thank you for listening. Please remain online for the live Q&A session with our subject matter experts.